Hey, it's Dave from Bullpen Cycles, and this very bike, and the other models like it mark a significant milestone in motorcycling history. Hard to imagine that was almost 30 years ago. This is a 1995 Triumph Trophy 4. 1995 marks Triumph's return to motorcycle sales in the United States. It was 1993 in Canada and 1991 in Europe. So this bike, oh, be quiet, puppy. This bike not only marks the return of Triumph in America, but the return of Triumph as a motorcycle manufacturer. Every Triumph since, every single Triumph they make today, owes their heritage to this bike and all the other original Hinckley Triumphs from those early 90s. Now we call this a Hinckley Triumph because that's where the factory was, as opposed to the older Triumphs which were made in Meridian. Now this came out, well, the first container came to America in October 1995. And how do I know? Because I worked at the Triumph dealer and I ordered one, the first one off the boat, and it was just like this. A Triumph Trophy 12 in British racing green. And up until that point, I was still riding my old Bonneville. I studied the sales literature, and I'm going to show you that, all the different models that were available. And I picked this. I thought this would be the flagstone model, the one that would become popular, the one that would mark its entry forever, the next destined to become a classic. And I was wrong. Let's learn more. Hi, Inga. Can you be quiet for just a little bit? This is the original sales literature that I picked up when I bought my bike in 1995. I studied this and studied this and studied this, and I decided the bike that I wanted to buy was a Trophy 4. And here's why. All the different specs. The Trophy 4, 108 horsepower, 6-speed, top speed of 150 miles an hour, torque 104 Newton meters at 5,000 RPM. I thought that was going to be the one, destined to be a classic. And here you go. Here's the Speed Triple. The original Tiger. The Sprint. My bike. The Trident 900. The Daytona 1200. And the 900 Super 3, basically a carbon fiber Daytona. And of all the bikes, I figured the Daytona 1200 was too big and heavy to be a real track bike. It didn't measure up to anything that was out there. The second generation Gixxers, much more of a sporting bike than the heavy 1200 Daytona, and it was actually more comfortable. So that left me with the only other big option, the Trophy 4, and sport touring was all the rage. You had the Yamaha FJ 1100 to become the FJ 1200, and that was the rage until the adventure bike scene came out, and so now that's kind of flipped away. The bike everybody wants today, believe it or not, if you're going to collect a Hinckley Triumph, is the Speed Triple. And I don't know why. Because if you go back to that spec sheet, the Speed Triple is only a 5-speed. You lose a cylinder and a gear, and you pay more, and that's the collectible one. Let's get back to ours. So this was the 95 Trophy. The next batches that came out would be 96, and by then they changed the fairing. You got kind of a double slipstream headlight and a different fairing. And I think this is more of a timeless looking bike. Also by mid-year 96, the Daytona 1200 would go away, although they did make a special edition. And this bike soldiered on, I think, till about 2002. This was the flagship bike. Much like the Rocket 3 today, I guess. But that's a cruiser. Let's see what this sounds like and then go for a ride. It sounds healthy, but it's not overly loud. This particular one is not the one that I bought new. It's actually nicer than the one that I bought new. It's got 9,000 original miles on it. I bought this 10 years ago from the service manager of another Triumph dealer, and I salted it away. The good thing about these is they've got drain plugs in the carburetors. You can drain them all dry, keep your gas system fresh and clean. The weak points are the sprag clutch in the starter. If your battery is weak and it goes reh, 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 don't force it, because that will hurt the sprag clutch. And to change that, you got to drop the motor. It's a pain. The other thing that's a minor pain are these turn signals. You can see I had to glue them. They get old, the plastic gets brittle, and they break when you breathe on them. So I glued that. I replaced them actually just last month, and I breathed on one and it broke again. They make stronger aftermarket turn signal stem replacements, but I've only seen them for sale in England. You can get them on English eBay. So let's go for a ride. I don't know if those in-camera microphones work or whether this helmet just gives too much wind noise. So we're going to try this. A little bit different. Hope it works out. This is an honest 150 mile an hour bike. Ask me how I know. Well, I've ridden these before. 100 miles an hour, you'll want to put your head under the windshield. But at 150, you're banging uncontrollably your chin against the gas tank. You're not going to do that here. But you can see, very smooth. Nice upright seating position. I wouldn't call the legs cramped. They're definitely not cruiser. These are probably old tires. I've owned this bike 10 years. They could even be original to the bike, I don't know. I don't know what 30-year-old 9,000 mile tires look like. You can gobble up miles and miles. You gotta watch. It's easy to get going to speed. You can gobble up miles and miles of road on highway with this. 25 down now. It's just, my arms aren't even cramped. Ooh. Very nice. These were very reliable bikes. I've seen some with up to 100,000 miles. Oh, that was only second. even find neutral. Great bike. Just a great bike.